Check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcast. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcast to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Here with you for the next hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio Sirius XM, Channel 80. I'll get into the NFL power rankings as the show progresses today. I'll definitely visit Colin Kaepernick, supposedly meeting with the league office, but then not meeting with the league office, and both sides having their interpretation as to why the meeting hasn't taken place and what it all means. We'll talk about that as the show progresses, but for the moment in time, I've got to talk about a team that at the moment is 6-4 on the season. They are in the midst of a 3-game winning streak, and they have a star emerging before our very eyes in Kristap Porzingis, who's averaging 30 and 7.5 rebounds a game on 51% shooting from the field and 38% shooting from three-point range. Frank Isola for the New York Daily News is here with yours truly. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, Steve. How you been?
All right. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, buddy. Thanks a lot. Break it down for me. How surprised are you to see what you're seeing, considering the fact that you've had to be subjected on a daily basis to the moribund franchise known as the New York Knicks, who don't appear to be moribund at all right now?
Yeah, and I think, the 0-3 start, put them in a position where they played the Nets on that Friday night. Everyone was like, hey, this better be there's almost a must-win. And I really think the win in Cleveland, and obviously at the time they were playing a pretty dysfunctional Cleveland team that wasn't playing hard, and then beating Denver the next night. And Denver's a good team. They'll be in playoff contention all year out in the West. So I think winning those games back-to-back at Cleveland, at Denver, really got the Knicks rolling. I mean, they've won 6 of their last 7 games. And you're right about Kristap Porzingis. It looks like he's emerging as a star. Steve, last night, he went about 15 minutes without scoring. It was really, Kyle O'Quinn, it was Doug McDermott, Lance Thomas, Frank Ntilikina, Tim Hardaway Jr. They're the ones that led the comeback. But late in the game, when they needed Porzingis to be a superstar, to be that closer, he was the guy that made the 2 free throws. He made the big three-pointer, and then he iced the game with that little finger roll layup late in the game. So he scored the 7 points when they needed it after really not doing much in the second half.
Frank Isola, break this down for me. You are more qualified than almost anybody to do so. How much is this success, this greatness that we're seeing from Porzingis, a product of Carmelo Anthony's absence?
Well, I do think the fact that Carmelo's not there means that Kristap's going to be the guy that's getting the ball more. And I think early on, the Knicks probably weren't running enough plays for Kristap Porzingis. I think everyone's kind of quick now to say, you see what's happening without Carmelo. They were, I think it was 16-11 or 16-12 last year before, Phil Jackson started, talking to people and criticizing Carmelo publicly. So last year, they were 4 games over 500 in December and actually playing pretty well. So I'm not ready to go there just yet. It's how they do it over the long haul, how Kristap does it over the long haul. Remember, Steve, they have played 7 games. But I will say this on Kristap's behalf. He wanted Carmelo on the team, but I also think the fact that Carmelo is not there, he likes the challenge because he wants everything. He wants all the trappings that come with being
I was getting ready to go there, Frank, because I want you to highlight for our listeners his personality. Give us some insight into how this guy is made up, what his makeup is.
Yeah, and I got a chance to interview him probably a month and a half before the draft. So obviously at the time he wasn't property of the Knicks, and he's a very confident guy. And when you're a kid from Latvia and your brothers played professionally, and you leave your house in Latvia and you go to Spain at about the age of 14, 15 years old, you're going to grow up pretty quickly. He speaks multiple languages. He's been in a professional environment all his life, so he has a lot of confidence, and he loves the idea of playing the NBA. He loves being in New York. He loves being a single guy making pretty good money in New York, and he looks forward to the challenge. And thus far, let's face it, he has done very well. But, to judge the real superstars in this league, it's how you do it on both ends of the court. It's how you do it over a long period of time, and you really make your bones in the playoffs. So for him, the next step is getting the team into the playoffs. But there's no doubt in my mind that he likes the idea of being the focal point, much like Carmelo did, and to me, much like Patrick Ewing did. They kind of have that same personality. They understand, the responsibilities of being the number one guy on the team.
Frank Isola of the New York Daily News, NBA writer extraordinaire, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Listen, when you look at this Knicks team, is it just about Porzingis, or is there something else that the rest of us are not seeing that's contributed to this 6-4 team? Because I'm looking at the roster: Doug McDermott, Kyle O'Quinn, Enes Kanter's averaging a double-double. I guess that's good because you got him in the trade for Melo, the Courtney Lees of the world, people like that, Ntilikina, these guys, Tim Hardaway Jr., he's the second leading scorer on the team. But there's nothing that really knocks your socks off about this team in terms of assuming that they're going to be somebody to be reckoned with. What are we missing?
Well, you know what to me it is, and I go back to a team like Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland doesn't have Kyrie Irving, so from a talent standpoint, they lost an unbelievable player. But I look at them, and I've been watching them play a lot, unlike last night, and they haven't been playing hard enough. And I think the thing with the Knicks is you look at their talent, guys like Lance Thomas, Kyle O'Quinn, they go out there, they play hard all the time. Frank Ntilikina offensively will struggle, but defensively he'll give you something. So to Jeff Hornacek's credit, after that 0-3 start, it wasn't just about making, certain adjustments and figuring out a rotation. And offensively, the Knicks have been good. It's, getting guys to play hard every single night. And the Knicks still have defensive lapses. I mean, come on, they were down 19 to Indiana on Sunday, and last night they were down 15 points. So there are moments in the game where defensively they still have a lot of ground to make up. But, I remember Ron Adams, the assistant coach for Golden State Warriors, once telling me, I said something to him about, they play hard, which is, half the battle. He said, no. Playing hard is about 90% of the battle. And I think the fact that the Knicks are playing hard is making up for maybe that talent deficiency that you're talking about.
What did you feel when you heard the news? And I was one of the people who reported it, Frank. Knicks had an opportunity to get Eric Bledsoe. They needed to be willing to give up Ntilikina, this point guard from France, in order to do it, and it was something they were reluctant to do at that particular moment in time. What do you think about that?
I think it tells you that Steve Mills and Scott Perry have a lot of faith in Frank, because number one, he's really not their player. That's Phil Jackson's pick, so it's not like they really have any obligation or they're really that connected to him. And I think maybe they looked at it like, we said we're going to rebuild, even though Eric Bledsoe is not by any stretch of the imagination an older player. But maybe they were thinking, let's stick with our young guys and let's see how we can do it. Maybe down the road there'll be another trade. So I understand why they did it, but I think it tells you something about how I feel about Frank. Now, offensively, Frank has a ways to go. But defensively, even last night, Kemba Walker, who's a terrific player, but is undersized, Frank's got the long arms. He creates a lot of havoc defensively, and he made things hard for Kemba Walker last night. So I agree with you, Steve. Eric Bledsoe's out there, and to the Knicks' credit, they explored it. But I think in the end, they kind of want to stick with the plan. And Knicks fans keep saying, let's stick with the plan. Well, here you go. They're sticking with the plan.
Frank Isola, you don't just cover the Knicks, you cover the league. So I'll ask you a couple of league-wide questions. I've been watching some of these rookies. De'Aaron Fox looked good last night for Sacramento against Oklahoma City. Dennis Smith has looked good in Dallas. Josh Jackson has had his moment in Phoenix. Jason Tatum's definitely looked good in Boston. Donovan Mitchell looks good in Utah. Markkanen in Chicago looks good. Malik Monk looked good last night against the Knicks. Lonzo Ball for the Lakers, not so much. What are you hearing about him? What are folks around the league saying about Lonzo Ball?
Well, I think with Lonzo, the thing was always going to be, when you watched him play in college, it was going to be about his shot. And, I think when Jason Kidd first came into the league, that was the big issue that a lot of people had. And to Jason Kidd's credit, he developed into a very reliable shooter. So that's going to be the big step for Lonzo Ball. He definitely sees the floor well. He's a terrific passer. I give him credit for this. He's come into the league as a marked man. Every rookie who's drafted high in the league comes in as a marked man. But, when your father is talking the way that he did, and, Lonzo's not the one running his mouth, it's the father. So that's a really tough burden that he kind of carries around. Look what Patrick Beverley did that first game where he really went after him. So I think you're going to see that a lot. So I look at him a lot differently just because of all the outside stuff that's going on. But the shot's going to have to get better. For him to be a big-time player, not just a guy that could stick in the league and be a role player, but to be a big-time player, his shot's going to have to get a lot better.
What rookie has impressed you the most, or who's your front runner for Rookie of the Year?
Well, it's funny. I do the show on the NBA show on Sirius with Brian Scalabrine, and when they were going to pick third, I kept telling him, because he wanted Josh Jackson. I said the guy is Tatum. I thought Tatum, he loves Tatum now, but he's got a chance to see him. Tatum's getting it done on both ends of the court. Plus, Steve, it's not like he's going to a team where there are low expectations. He has stepped right into the starting lineup. He's played very well. He makes them a lot longer on the perimeter. So, when you're a starting player for a team that's 9-2 that had to suffer through losing Gordon Hayward and you lose your first two games, I thought he has done very well for himself. Boston's been impressive, and he's been impressive.
They've been impressive, but Frank, doesn't Ben Simmons count as a rookie because he never played a game last year, even though he was drafted?
No, I ain't going there. I love Ben Simmons, just like I love Joel Embiid. I was not voting for Joel Embiid last year in his third year, playing 31 games as a Rookie of the Year. If he was getting, here's my thing: if you were getting paid last year, you're not a Rookie of the Year. You lost your. That doesn't mean he's not great, but to me, you lose your Rookie of the Year.
Got you. But this young talent that we've been talking about in the league, Porzingis, Greek Freak, or Ben Simmons, who would you go with right now if you had to start a franchise based on what you've been seeing?
That's a tough one. That's a real.
Yeah.
You know what? It probably would be Giannis, even though Kristap is the better shooter, because Giannis has been in the playoffs a couple of times. It's a close one, but athletically, I'd probably go with Giannis. But Kristap has shown me up. But as you know, Steve, the big thing with Kristap, he's missed 26 games the first 2 years. Durability is going to be a big thing.
Always appreciate you, buddy. Thanks a lot, man. Good to see you. Good to talk
Steve.
to you, brother.
Good
Take it easy. All right, the one and only Frank Isola for the New York Daily News right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-SAY-ESPN. Of all the things we have to talk about, the power rankings, getting into Colin Kaepernick. Already talked about Porzingis and the Knicks. Already talked about the LaVar Ball situation with his son LiAngelo getting arrested in China. All of those things to talk about. I'll also add this question to the equation. If you had to start an NBA franchise right now based solely on what you've seen over the first 2 weeks or so of this NBA season, are you going with Kristaps Porzingis, the Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo out of Milwaukee, or Ben Simmons out of the Philadelphia 76ers? Who would be your choice? Tough question. I don't even have the answer. I got to think about it. But I'll let you know what I think when I get back. It's live. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Catch the Stephen A. Smith Show live on 98.7 ESPN New York, ESPN LA 710, and Sirius XM Channel 80.
You just can't make this stuff up.
Weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
One of the other things that I felt the need to get into was the story involving how NFL league spokesman states invitation to Colin Kaepernick isn't about a mediator. According to the story on ESPN.com, the NFL has invited Colin Kaepernick to attend a one-on-one meeting with Commissioner Roger Goodell, a league spokesman told ESPN's Jim Trotter. But the two sides have offered conflicting comments on whether the free agent quarterback has responded to the invitation. Kaepernick's attorney, Mark Geragos, told ABC News they, quote, responded immediately that Colin would be happy to attend, but that the meeting fell through when the league rejected a request for a mediator to be present. Troy Vincent, the NFL's executive vice president of football operations, texted Kaepernick on October 31st, Halloween, to update him on the ongoing talks about social issues between players and owners, league spokesman Joe Lockhart told Trotter on Tuesday. At the end of the text message, Vincent extended the invitation for Kaepernick to meet with Goodell, according to Lockhart, who said the league has not heard back from the former 49ers star. Geragos disputed the notion that Kaepernick did not respond. Quote, we responded immediately that Colin would be happy to attend. Geragos said in a statement provided to ABC News, because of the grievance, we asked that a mediator be present. A mediator also would ensure that the discussions were productive and confidential and not used as a PR stunt or prop by the league. Colin's proposal was rejected. Lockhart fired back after that claim, telling Trotter, quote, Mr. Garrigo's statement alone violates the collective bargaining agreement, breaking the confidentiality of the grievance process. So he can save his lecture. Let's read that over, because I think y'all lost me for a second. Mr. Garrigo's statement alone violates the CBA, breaking the confidentiality of the grievance process. So he can save his lecture on PR stunts. The invitation remains open. Ladies and gentlemen, I side with Colin Kaepernick on this one. If you're filing a grievance against the National Football League, why would you want to meet with the commissioner one-on-one without someone in attendance to hear what's going on? Why would that be the case? He should not only show up with a mediator, he should show up with his lawyer. You're filing a grievance against the league. You're requesting cell phone records and emails of the commissioner, of Troy Vincent, of owners like Jerry Jones and Robin Kraft. I mean, my God. Why would you show up by yourself to have a conversation with any of these people? Colin Kaepernick is perfectly within his right, if he's going to meet with the commissioner at this juncture, to want to meet with the commissioner with his representatives in attendance. It's perfectly within his right and wise. And by the way, if you're Roger Goodell and you ever wanted to meet with the guy, why wait till now? This has been percolating for over a year. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it happened over a year ago, but then, it really, really didn't heighten in terms of relevance until the president called them a bunch of SOBs, said he fired them all. But this has been percolating for quite some time. Roger Goodell had ample opportunities to extend this invite to Colin Kaepernick before a grievance was filed. Why now? Just a thought. 866. Say ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Carlton in Tampa. No longer in Massachusetts. He's in Tampa now. Chilling in the Florida sunshine. Living a good life. I guess he's earned it. He's live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Carlton? Good afternoon.
Hey, I saw your segment this morning on First Take on the NFL Power Rankings, and I wanted to ask if those guys down there in Bristol, Connecticut that prepared that, because I'm assuming they were ESPN Power Rankings, are drug tested. Because having the Patriots as the number 2 team in the NFL through this midseason is utter delusionville. This is a team that has, by Bill Belichick's metric, how he measures offenses and defense, which is yards per attempt, either yards per pass attempt or yards per rush attempt. They have the worst defense in the NFL. The worst rushing defense in the NFL, number 32 out of 32 teams. The worst pass defense in the NFL, number 32 out of 32 teams.
Well, actually, their rushing defense is ranked 25. Oh, you're talking about yards per average. I got it. They are dead last. They are dead last in rushing and passing. That's correct.
Yeah, because teams that they run, twice as much, obviously they're going to give up more or gain more rushing yards. It's yards per attempt, and this is according to ESPN's own website. So you tell me how the team that has the worst defense, both rushing and passing and cumulative by a country mile, can possibly be the number 2 team in the NFL. Explain that to me.
I can't explain that to you. I kind of agree with you, but I will say to you what they'll try to point to is how their defense has played over the last 4 weeks of this 4-game winning streak over Tampa, the Jets, the Falcons, and the Chargers. I think they'll look at it from that vantage point and say that the defense...
And the Jets put up over 400 yards on that team.
I'm just telling you that at the end of the day, beating Tampa, holding Tampa to 14 points, holding the Falcons to 7 points, holding the Chargers to 13 points. Everybody's been talking about how much better the Patriots have gotten. I agree with you, though. I do have questions about them at the number 2 spot. I agree with you.
Tampa held themselves to 14 points. I was at that game. Folk missed 3 field goals. They had a rushing touchdown by Winston called back because of hands to the face on the center. Cameron Brate dropped the touchdown pass.
That's true. Brate did drop that pass, yep.
Winston missed wide open receiver after wide open receiver.
By the way, let me change that subject on you for a quick second, Carlton, because you're in Tampa. Is it just me, or has Winston? I know he's out with the shoulder injury now, and he's going to be sitting down for a couple of weeks while Ryan Fitzpatrick quarterbacks this team. But I got to tell you, Winston has been a disappointment this year. Is it just me?
He has missed so many open guys, and I'm not talking, fit it in a narrow window. I'm talking guys 3 yards behind the defender, and he overthrows them by 5 yards. He just hasn't been accurate. I had such hopes for him coming in. But now you're going to see the guy that's so much better than you guys believe he is because he's been on one crummy team after another. Although, of course, he's going to be without their number one wide receiver this weekend because Evans couldn't control himself. And you're going to see him again outperform people's expectations. And I think
there we go. I forgot. Let me alert my listeners that I'm talking to Carlton, who transitioned from Massachusetts to Florida, Tampa, Florida. That's where he lives now. Great caller, great friend of the show. But this dude is a Patriot hater, and he's a Ryan Fitzpatrick lover. In the eyes of Carlton, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the second coming of Tom Brady. That's the Carlton I'm talking to.
I root for underdogs, my friend. He is one of three.
Okay.
What used to be 1AA quarterback, now FBS, I guess, is how they designate him now. Secondary schools. Flacco on the Ravens, Wentz on the Eagles, and now Fitzpatrick on Tampa Bay. He's one of three long shots that are quarterbacking in the NFL.
Let me let you go, but let me give you a piece of advice. You want to see some good football, you might want to go down to South Florida this weekend and check out Miami and Notre Dame, buddy. Might want to do that.
I'll probably check that. That'll be on TV. I will definitely DVR that.
Thanks
game.
a lot, buddy. Appreciate you calling as always, man. Take it easy.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! You will see this quote from Josina Anderson all over ESPN today. Does an outstanding job covering the National Football League for ESPN. Josina Anderson. She spoke to a New York Giants player today who wanted to remain anonymous in talking about how the players feel about head coach Ben McAdoo. This is the quote the anonymous player gave Josina Anderson this morning. Quote, McAdoo has lost this team. He's got us going 80% on Saturdays before we get on a plane to play a game. It's wild. Changed our day off, our off day. He's dishing out fines like crazy. Suspended 2 of our stars when we need them the most. Throws us under the bus all the time. He's ran us into the ground, and people wonder why we've been getting got. Listen, there's no question that Ben McAdoo needs to go. He don't need to be head coach of the New York Giants. He's been a disaster. He's not head coach material, and we see this all the time. Folks that do well as coordinators, and then the minute you put them in the lead role, for whatever reason, because Wade Phillips is a player's guy, and players love him. He just didn't need to be a head coach, but he's an elite defensive coordinator. But Ben McAdoo is clearly overrated. Has no business being a head coach. Has no business being in front of the media. He can't handle it. They need to get rid of him now. Right now, as far as I'm concerned. But in the same breath, if you're the players, there's still film on you. You got to go out there and perform. And when you don't perform, folks ain't going to hear these quotes about Ben McAdoo. They're going to watch how you performed on tape. It's going to be held against you. It's going to affect your bottom line. That's something they need to think about, no matter how you slice it. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Sean. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, what's good with Stephen A?
I'm good. Talk to me.
Yes, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'll take him over Ben Simmons. I'll take him over Kristap. You can say I'm a homer. I'm a Milwaukee boy, but on First Take a few weeks ago, you and Max went back and forth about who would you draft if you were the head guy of an organization. Max said Giannis. You said AD down in New Orleans.
Yep.
And y'all went back and forth. And Stephen A., I think you turned it on me, man. I think you coming on home, man.
No, I'm not, because I didn't put Anthony Davis in that conversation. He's a bit more experienced, number one. Number two, I like Antetokounmpo. I mean, he's special. He's a star. He's going to be a superstar. His athleticism, his defensive prowess, everything is off the charts. Here's my issue with him. He can't shoot. He's got to be able to shoot. If he shot like Porzingis, he'd be better than he'd be the best player in the world. There'd be nothing to discuss. If he shot like Porzingis, there would be nothing to discuss. He's that elite. So in that regard, I would tell you I still wouldn't go with him. because I need a shooter. As much of a star as he is, and he is special, there's a reason why Milwaukee is 4-6 thus far, Sean. You know why? Because as much as he can accumulate numbers, he can't get it done for you when it really counts, because they'll lay off of him and make him shoot a jump shot. And that's the problem. He's got to work on his jump shot.
Because he gets to the line quite a bit. Does that balance out?
Did you just hear what I said? I said when it counts most, you lay off of him and dare him to shoot Jays. That's the problem. You can't do that. You can't allow people to do that to you. You have to develop a perimeter shot. When they couldn't stop Jordan, what did they do? They tried to lay off him until he perfected his jump shot, and then they couldn't touch him. You got to perfect your J if you're the Greek freak. That's the issue. Appreciate the call. Mike in Denver, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Mike?
How you doing, man? Two topics real quick. The ball kid. I believe the father may have did something wrong when he went public about telling the boy that he's not going to be an NBA player. I think we got to look further to see if his behavior, get worse after this incident.
Did he say LiAngelo wasn't going to be an NBA player? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, he the one that said UCLA now is the one he said you're not going to make the NBA, but don't worry about it, son. He went public with that. That's something you don't do to a kid public. You talk to him in private about that. So we need to look to see if this behavior carries over after this incident. Hope that it don't, but that's something to look for. Okay. The other topic is Porzingis. Man, he's doing what he said he did on draft day, Stephen A. When he let everybody know I'm not like the rest of these guys from across the water. I'm good. He's really showing it. And he got a lot of heart, man. He got a lot of heart, no doubt about it. See, when I got on Phil Jackson for drafting him, it wasn't that I saw Porzingis and didn't think he was good, because I had never seen him, and I told the world that. My issue was Phil was telling us 3 or 4 years, and I said, who the hell said we got 3 or 4 years? You got to show up now, Phil. And sure enough, Phil had hoodwinked us, and after getting the job and stealing money from Dolan, then he decides to tell us we're in a reclamation project. So it's good to see Porzingis balling like this, because Phil was able to save face in some regard. Go ahead. Right. And then I take Ben Simmons.
You might be right on that. He need a jump shot too, though. Okay,
that's what I was going to say. I think with the player he is, he's going to develop that jump shot. I don't think he practiced on it this summer, probably due to that injury. He probably was a little tentative. But Stephen A., this might be the next closest thing to Magic Johnson, man.
You know what it is special? Listen. Listen. If he get a jump shot, he's better than Magic Johnson. If he gets a jump shot, he's better than what Magic Johnson was. If Ben Simmons gets a jump shot, what he will eventually be. I mean, listen. Magic Johnson's the greatest point guard I've ever seen. But the flip side to it is that we all know that LeBron James was a better athlete. And when you look at Ben Simmons, other than a jump shot, what doesn't he have?
Stephen A., if he get that jump shot,
it's a wrap.
I know he is, because he's that type of player.
All right. Hold on, Mike, before I let you go. If he and the Greek freak get a jump shot, what then?
I'm taking Ben Simmons, man, because he handled the ball much better. He can galvanize the truth, and he can make them passes. And like I said, Stephen A., he going to give you more than the Greek freak.
I got it.
We're going to keep an eye on it.
We're going to keep an eye on it. Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it. Back to the phones we go. Jay, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A.?
I'm good. Talk to me. What's up?
Okay, my question about Roger Goodell and all this stuff that's going on, with the thing about Kaepernick today.
Okay.
Came out, he don't want to meet with him unless he only want to meet without the lawyer. The Zeke Elliott thing, where they pretty much convicted him, with a person who directly investigated it said he shouldn't be suspended.
Right.
And the ongoing protest stuff, Now, ain't it his job to handle that? Now, in my mind, it seems like you got owners coming out having to try to handle it themselves now by asking the team to do this, and they'll donate things and stuff like that. So
not so fast.
Not
fast. Hold on. When you got an owner stepping out and handling it, it's Jerry Jones coming to the defense of his own player. Just like it was Robert Kraft coming to the defense of his own player last year with Deflategate and Tom Brady. The fact of the matter is, for the most part, the other owners stay out of it. Okay? Roger Goodell definitely appears to have mishandled quite a few things. There's no doubt. But essentially what it turns out is this. Roger Goodell, let me tell you where he makes the mistake, Jay. With the Ezekiel Elliott situation, why are you trying to determine his guilt or innocence? That's not your place if you're the commissioner of the National Football League. No matter who you've hired to investigate the matter, it is not your place. All he had to do was go like this. Think about this, Jay, and let me throw it to you this way. You listening to me, Jay?
Listening.
Let me throw it to you this way. I'm the commissioner of the National Football League. What would you say to me, Jay, if I said this to you? You know what, Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know whether you were guilty or not. That's not my place. What's my place is the commissioner of the Football League, of the National Football League. I told you, anything that impugns the integrity of this league will be dealt with. On July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016, months after you were drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, you decided to go back home to Columbus, Ohio, and you got into 5 separate incidences with your girl where she directly accused you of domestic violence. Well, it's because of this. You're suspended for 6 games. What could you say to me, Jay?
Well, I'm not just focusing on that Elliott thing. I'm focusing on all of these issues, and I'm referring to the owner who came out and asked the team not to kneel, and they will donate towards their causes. So I'm looking at these are three issues that he needs to nip in the bud. Now you're pulling in Papa John's. They talking stuff, you know.
Well, no. Well, they didn't pull in Papa John. Papa John's is a sponsor in the NFL, and they inserted themselves into the equation as well. But I only bring up the Ezekiel Elliott thing to make a point. The problem is that the NFL has made so much about what they do in terms of how they act upon things and trying to be just and come across as righteous all the damn time instead of being honest about where their interest lies. Our interest lies with the bottom line of the league. It's being compromised. We need to address it, and that's that. If you're talking business, then the Jays of the world and everybody else doesn't have something to lean on you about. They have to accept the fact that you have every right to be about the business of making money. The problem is people put on their sanctimonious hats and try to wax poetically and all self-righteously about what's right and wrong in their mind, and it doesn't align with how other people are thinking. That's the problem.
Last quick rebuttal now.
Sure.
He is to me he is sullying the shield by doing all these crooked things by not accepting these people. So shouldn't he be held to the same, to the same standard as he wants players here too?
I wouldn't say to the same standards as the players because he's the commissioner. And we know those in power don't get held with the same level of accountability as the people they govern. But the flip side to it is that he shouldn't be absolved from all the mistakes that he's made because he's made one too many. And I get you there. I appreciate the caller. I got to run. D'Angelo, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Hurry up, go ahead, man.
All right, I just wanted to talk to you about the remaining schedule of the Titans. Rapid fire, win or loss, your opinion, your take.
I got it. I'll do it for you. They'll beat Cincinnati. They're going to lose on the road to Pittsburgh. They'll beat Indianapolis. They'll beat Houston. They'll lose on the road to Arizona. They'll beat San Francisco. They'll lose to the Rams and beat the Jaguars.
So that'll have them sitting at what?
Probably around 9-7.
9-7?
Yeah.
So if the Jags end up 9-7 at the end of the season, just hypothetically speaking, out of that game and that decided whether the playoff, what game, who will win that game?
I think that the game that would decide the playoffs is them against Jacksonville. And I think they might beat Jacksonville, but I ain't sure about that because Jackson looks pretty damn good right now. But call me back tomorrow when I have more time. John in Manhattan, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, John, go.
Hey, Stephen, I want to talk about like the last segment with Ben Simmons. If he gets a jump shot, he'll be the truth. I totally agree with you. But I want one quick thing about Roger Goodell. If he was more consistent, he wouldn't have all these problems with
it's not just consistency. It's not just consistency. It's about you can't act like you're law enforcement. If you're the commissioner of the league and your sole objective is to protect the image of the league and you're not delving into the guilt or innocence of somebody, but instead you're focused on impugning the integrity of the league. Remember when he punished Big Ben Roethlisberger and it was originally 6 games and then he reduced it to 4? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Nobody said anything. You know why? Because he said, look, you ain't been indicted. You ain't been arrested. We don't care. You found yourself in a situation that impugned the integrity of the league, and that's all we care about. And nobody bothered Roger Goodell over that because that's all it was about. He left the guilt and innocence of Ben Roethlisberger up to the authorities. He didn't try to delve into a lane he had no business in. That's the difference. John, I got to get on out of here. To the rest of the listeners out there, I got to get on out of here. But I'll be back in 22 hours. The Stephen A. Smith Show live on ESPN Radio. Holla at y'all 22 hours from now. Peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.